Billerica Public Library's Let's Talk Books February edition. We read some interesting and fascinating books this month. We discussed them, we had fun with them, and let me begin by introducing the science fiction books that we read. Here and Now and Then by Mike Chen. He'll go anywhere to save his daughter. Ken Stewart is an everyday family man working in IT, trying to keep the spark in his marriage, struggling to connect with his teenage daughter. But his current life is a far cry from his previous career as a time traveling secret agent from over a century in the future. Stranded in suburban San Francisco since the 1990s after a botched mission, Ken has kept his past hidden from everyone around him until one afternoon his rescue team arrives 18 years too late. Their mission: return Ken to 2142, where he's been gone only weeks, not years, and where another family is waiting for him, a family he can't remember. Torn between two lives, Ken desperate effort to stay connected to both will threaten to destroy the agency and even history itself. With his daughter's very existence at risk, he will have to take one final trip to save her, even if it means breaking all the rules of time travel in the process. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Rosemary Harper doesn't expect much when she joins the crew of the aging Wayfarer. While the patched up ship has seen better days, it offers her a bed, a chance to explore far off corners of the galaxy, and most importantly, some distance from her past. An introspective young woman who learned early to keep to herself, she's never met anyone remotely like the ship's diverse crew, including Sissik, the exotic reptilian pilot, chatty engineers Kizzy and Jinx, who keep the ship running, and Ashby, their noble captain. Life aboard the Wayfarer is chaotic and crazy, exactly what Rosemary wants. It's also about to get extremely dangerous when the crew is offered a job of a lifetime. Tunneling wormholes through space to a distant planet is definitely lucrative and will keep them comfortable for years. But risking her life wasn't part of the plan. In the far reaches of deep space, the tiny Wayfarer crew will confront a host of unexpected mishaps and thrilling adventures that force them to depend on each other. To survive, Rosemary's got to learn how to rely on this assortment of oddballs, an experience that teaches her about love and trust, and that having a family isn't necessarily the worst thing in the universe. Hull 03 by Greg Bear. A starship hurtles through the emptiness of space, its destination unknown, its purpose a mystery. Now, one man wakes up, ripped from the dream of a new home, a new planet, and the woman he was meant to love in his arms. He finds himself wet, naked, and freezing to death. The dark halls are full of monsters, but trusting other survivors he meets might be a greater danger. All he has are questions. Who is he? Where are they going? What happened to the dream of a new life? What happened to Hull 03? All will be answered if he can survive the ship. And so begins the tale of Teacher. But who is he supposed to teach? What information is he supposed to pass on? Teacher soon discovers he's on a ship, and that ship appears to be falling apart, barely functional enough to maintain life support in many places. But that does not appear to stop either the ship or something on the ship from trying to kill Teacher and others that he meets along the way. Can Teacher and his companions solve the mystery of what happened to the ship and stop it, or something aboard it from killing him and his friends? Or will Teacher's journey be fatal to not only himself and his friends, but to the ship's mission as well? Remote Control by Needy Okafor. The day Fatima forgot her name, death paid a visit. From here on in, she would be known as Sankofa, a name that meant nothing to anyone but to her, and the only tie to her family and her past. Her touch was death, and with a glance a town can fall. And as she walks alone, except for her fox companion, searching for the object that came from the sky and gave itself to her when the meteors fell and when she was yet unchanged, searching for answers. But is there a greater purpose for Sankofa now that death is her constant companion? Our second genre is fantasy. The Mist of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley. We see the adventures of Camelot's court through the eyes of the women who boasted the king's rise and schemed for his fall. From their childhoods through their ultimate fulfillment of their destinies, we follow these women in the diverse cast of characters that surrounds them as the great epic unfolds suddenly before us. As Morgane and Guinevere struggle for control over the fate of Arthur's kingdom, as the Knights of the Round Table take on their infamous quest, as Merlin and Vivian wield their magics for the future of Old Britain, the Isle of Avalon slips further into the mist of memory until a vision between the old and new worlds and the old and the new religions claims its most famous victim. Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hubb. Young Fitz is the bastard son of a noble prince. Raised in the shadow of the royal court by his father's gruff stableman, he is treated as an outcast by all the royalty except the devious King Shrewd, who has him secretly tutored in the arts of the assassin. For in Fitz's blood runs the magic skill, in the darker knowledge of a child raised with stable hounds and rejected by his family. As raiders ravage the coast, Fitz is growing to manhood. Soon he will face his first dangerous, soul-shattering mission. And though some regard him as a threat to the throne, he may just be the key to the survival of the kingdom. The Black Elf Stone, The Fall of Shannana by Terry Brooks. Across the four lands, peace has reigned for generation. But now, in the far north, an unknown enemy is massing. More troubling than the carnage is the strange and wondrous power wielded by the attackers, a breed of magic unfamiliar even to the droid order. Fearing the worst, the High Droid dispatches a diplomatic party under the protection of the Order's sworn guardian, Dali, to confront the mysterious encroaching force and discover its purpose. But another crucial journey is being undertaken. Exiled one-time High Druid Driska Arch has been living in quiet seclusion, far from the politics and power struggles of his former life, until two brutal attacks by would-be assassins force him to seek out an infamous murder-for-hire guild and find the hidden enemy who has marked him for death. At his side is Tasha Kenyon, a young woman gifted with the wish song and eager to be schooled in its formidable power by a master. She too is pursuing a mission to locate her wayward brother, whose own magic has driven him to deadly madness and kindled his rage for vengeance against his sister. In their darkest hours, facing dangerous adversaries, the lives and quest of Dali, Driska Arch, and Tasha Kenyon will be drawn together, and the challenges each confront will have resounding consequences for the future of the four lands. The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. Winter lasts most of the year at the edge of the Russian wilderness, and in the long nights, Vasilisa and her siblings love to gather by the fire to listen to their nurse's fairy tales. Above all, Vasil loves the story of Frost and the blue-eyed winter demon. Wise Russians fear him, for he claims unwary souls, and they honor the spirits that protect their homes from evil. Then Vasa's widowed father brings home a new wife from Moscow. Fiercely devout, Vasa's stepmother forbids her family from honoring their household spirits. But Vasa fears what this may bring, and indeed, misfortune begins to stalk the village. But Vasa's stepmother only grows harsher, determined to remake the village to her liking and to groom her rebellious stepdaughter for marriage or a convent. As the village defenses weaken and the evil from the forest creeps nearer, Vasilisa must call upon dangerous gifts she has long concealed to protect her family from a threat sprung to life from her nurse's most frightening tales. The Book of Lost Tales by J.R.R. Tolkien. The Book of Lost Tales stands at the beginning of the entire conception of Middle-earth, and well known for the tales, were the first form of myths and legends that came to be called the Silmarillion. Embedded in English legend and English association, they are set in a narrative frame of the great westward voyage over the ocean by a mariner named Eloi to the lonely isle where the elves dwelt. From there, he learned their true history, the lost tales of elfiness. In the tales are found the earliest accounts of gods and elves, dwarfs, balrogs, and orcs, of the Samals and the two trees of Valinor, of geography and cosmology of Tolkien's invented world. Our third genre of books that we talked about is mysteries. The Secret Book and Scone Society by Eloi Adams. Strangers flock to Miracle Springs, hoping the natural hot springs, five-star cuisine, and renowned spa can cure their ills. If none of that works, they often find their way to Miracle Books, where over a fresh-baked comfort scone, they exchange their stories with owner Nora Pendleton in return for a carefully chosen book. That's Nora's special talent, prescribing the perfect novel to ease a person's deepest pain. So when a visiting businessman reaches out for guidance, Nora knows exactly how to help. But before he can keep their appointment, he's found dead on the train tracks. Stunned, Nora forms the Secret Book and Scone Society, a group of damaged souls yearning to earn redemption by helping others. To join, members must divulge their darkest secret, the terrible truth that brought each of them to Miracle Springs in the first place. Now determined to uncover the truth behind the businessman's demise, the women meet at Nora's cozy bookstore. And as they untangle the web of corruption, they also discover their own courage, purpose, and a sisterhood that will carry them through every challenge, proving it's never too late to turn the page and start over. Lost Tales by Lee Goldberg. A video of Deputy Eve Ronan's off-duty arrest of an abusive movie star goes viral, turning her into a popular hero at a time when the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is plagued by scandal. The sheriff, desperate for more positive press, makes Eve the youngest female homicide detective in the department's history. Now Eve, with a lot to learn and resented by her colleagues, has to justify her new badge. Her chance comes when she and her burned out, soon to retire partner are called to the blood splattered home of a missing single mother and her two kids. The horrific carnage screams multiple murder, but there are no corpses. Eve has to rely on her instincts and help to find bodies and capture the vicious killer, all while battling her own insecurities, mounting pressure from the media, her bosses, and the bereaved family. It is a deadly ordeal that will either prove her skills or totally destroy her. Murder MRA by Cara Black. Amy LeDuc has sworn she would stick to tech investigation. No criminal cases for her, especially since her father, the late police detective, was killed in line of duty. But when an elderly Jewish man approaches Amy with a top secret decoding job on the behalf of a woman in his synagogue, Amy unwittingly takes on more than she is expecting. She drops off her findings at her client's house in Marais, Paris's historic Jewish quarter, and finds the woman strangled, a swastika carved on her forehead. With the help of her partner Renee, Amy sets out to solve this horrendous murder, but finds herself in an increasingly dangerous web of ancient secrets and buried war crimes. The Cove by Katherine Coulter. Sally Brainerd can't remember what happened the night her father was murdered. Maybe she did it, or maybe it was her poor, traumatized mother. Either way, the safest place for her is far away from Washington, D.C. But while her aunt's home in the Cove should be a quiet refuge, Sally can't shake the feeling that there's something not quite right about the postcard perfect little town. Despite his target's checkered past and convenient memory loss, FBI Special Agent James Quinlan isn't convinced she's the killer. but maybe she knows who is. As he uses his cover to get close to Sally and unearth the memories her mind has hidden away, James can't deny his connection to the troubled woman. But as their lies and passion intertwine, Sally and James soon learn that they aren't the only ones keeping deadly secrets in the Cove. Our fourth genre is contemporary fiction. The Japanese Lover by Isabelle Allen. In 1939, as Poland falls under the shadow of the Nazis, young Alma's parents send her away to live in the safety with an aunt and uncle in their mansion in San Francisco. There, as the rest of the world goes to war, she encounters Ishmael, the quiet and gentle son of the family's Japanese gardener. Unnoticed by those around them, a tender love affair begins to blossom. Following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the two are cruelly pulled apart as Ishmael and his family, like thousands of other Japanese Americans, are declared enemies and forcibly relocated to internment camps run by the United States government. Throughout their lifetimes, Alma and Ishmael reunite again and again, but theirs is a love that they are forever forced to hide from the world. Decades later, Elmer is nearing the end of her long and eventful life. Irina, a care worker struggling to come to terms with her own troubled past, meets the elderly woman and her grandson Seth at San Francisco's charmingly eccentric Lark House nursing home. As Irina and Seth forge a friendship, they become intrigued by the series of mysterious gifts and letters sent to Elmer. Eventually learning about Ishmael and their extraordinary secret passion that has endured for nearly 70 years. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor. In 1922, Count Alexander Rostov is deemed an unrepentant aristocrat by the Bolsheviks and is sentenced to house arrest in Metropole, a grand hotel across the street from the Kremlin. Rostovas, an indomitable man of wit and has never worked a day in his life, must now live in an attic room while some of the most turbulent decades in Russian history are unfolding outside the hotel's doors. Unexpectedly, his reduced circumstances provide him entry into a much larger world of emotional discovery. Brimming with humor, glittering cast of characters, and one beautifully rendered scene after another, this singular novel casts a spell as it relates to the Count's endeavor to gain a deeper understanding of what it means to be a man of purpose. The Templar Legacy by Steve Berry. Cotton Malone, one-time top operative for the U.S. Justice Department, is enjoying his quiet new life as an intriguing book dealer in Copenhagen. When an unexpected call to action reawakens his hair-trigger instincts and plunges him back into the cloak and dagger world he thought he left behind. It begins with the violent robbery attempt on Cotton's former supervisor, Stephanie Nell, who's far from home on a mission that has nothing to do with national security. Armed with vital clues to a series of century-old puzzles scattered across Europe, she means to crack a mystery that has tantalized the scholars and fortune hunters through the ages by finding the legendary cachet of wealth and forbidden knowledge thought to have been lost forever when the orders of the Knights Templar were exterminated in the 14th century. But she's not alone. Competing for the historic prize and desperate for crucial information Stephanie possesses is Raymond D. Rockford, a shady zealot with an army of assassins at his command. Welcome or not, Cotton seeks to even the odds in a perilous race. But the more he learns about the ancient conspiracies surrounding the Knights Templar, the more he realizes that even more than lives are at stake. At the end of a lethal game of conquest, with intrigue, treachery, and craven lust for power lies a shattering discovery that could rock the civilized world, and in the wrong hands, bring it to its knees. The last genre that we talked about was nonfiction. Sleight of Hand by Edwin Sachs. If ever there were a more classic tome for beginners of general sleight of hand, I am not sure what it is. This book has been around for 131 years and has stood the test of time and is now considered a standard must-have book for beginners. Even intermediate and professional magicians can find things and information of use in this book. Sleight of Hand, widely regarded by professional magicians as one of the finest magic books ever written. Clearly and minutely, the steps are given for hundreds of astonishing tricks. Be assured that sleight of hand relies primarily on dexterity, not apparatus. And if you are truly interested in magic, you must eventually master sleight of hand techniques or give up the idea of being anything more than a beginning magician. These techniques, both basic and more advanced, are all here, and the best book on the subject that you could possibly own. Magic for Dummies by David Pope. You don't need a white tiger, expensive props, or hours of preparation to do magic. With a little practice and some clever misdirection, which lays at the heart of all magic tricks, and showmanship, you can surprise family, friends, and coworkers using a few everyday items. If you're looking to saw a beautiful woman in half or make buildings disappear, we're sorry, but this book isn't you. But if you want to act out little miracles that you can perform on spur of the moment with items that are usually within reach, then Magic for Dummies can show you how. Filled with photos, pattern, and presentation tips for every trick in the book, Magic for Dummies offers a great opportunity to become familiar with some of the coolest magic tricks ever performed. With the help of authors David Pogue and stunning tricks contributed by 35 of America's top professional magicians, you'll be leaving your friends, family, and coworkers spellbound at your mastery of the mystical arts.